Good day and God bless everyone. This is Lindy Bidacora, and today I will be presenting to you my topic, which is the lesson 5, entitled Introduction to Popular Literature. Popular literature contains writings. Those are intended for masses and those that are in favor with the large audiences. So in this lesson, it will help the students to acquaint themselves with the nature, the appeal, and the social functions of popular literature. In this lesson, we will also tackling about the different characteristics, the issues, and the problems or the challenges of popular literature. So we have here understanding the nature, function, and the value of literature. So Dr. Rod Ellis, who is known as the father of second language acquisition. So Dr. Rod Ellis is a world-renowned expert in the field of second language acquisition, in which he believed that mahimo lamang nga successful learning and acquisition of the second language if ang first or ang mother language is na-establish siya na. Like for example, a child who is kabalo siya magbisaya. So he need to go to school in order for him to learn English language as his second language. So let's go back to the literature. So Dr. Rod Ellis defined literature as the verbal expression of human imagination, in which he believed that literature, those are the ideas, those are the thoughts or the sentiments of the human interest. So we have here, it is also one of the primary means by which a culture transmits itself, in which he believed that literature, which can be done orally or written, and that way, ma-preserve and ma-maintain ang culture, and ma-pass siya all throughout the different generations. So that's the way that a culture transmits itself. So let's have first the nature of popular literature. So what is the nature of literature? So literature can be defined as an expression of human feelings, thoughts, and ideas whose medium is language, oral, and written. So of course, literature is everything no naka-based siya sa human interest or the human thoughts. So it could be those perceptions, ideas, or concepts and sentiments of the humans. So it is also, it's not only about human ideas or thoughts and feelings. It is also experiences of the authors. Of course, literature involves here what are those situations that the authors encountered in the reality of life. So we have here, so we can infer that those mga definitions that are given a while ago about the definition of literature. We can also, we have here the different POVs or point of views of literature. So literature is an art. Literature is language. Is aesthetic, fictional, expressive, affective. It is everything in print. It means any writing can be categorized as literature. So meaning, even yung writing can be considered as part of the literature. And we have here literature as an art form, which is categorized into two types, which is the imaginative literature and non-imaginative literature. So imaginative literature is highly connotative, which means words that used in literary works. Works have feeling and shades. Connotative, which means words that used in literary works have feeling and shades of meaning that words tend to evoke. So, kining imaginative literature, those are connotative, meaning naka-base siya sa human imagination. So, nakadepende siya of the experiences of the author. So, naka-involve diha ang the human interest and the feelings that the words tend to evoke. So imaginative literature also gitawag siya literature of power. So it includes those poems, short stories, novels, and plays. So it interprets human experiences by presenting actual truths about a particular event. So, kaning imaginative literature is naka-base siya sa imaginations of the authors, no? And it has the power, it has the ability or the power para ma-enlighten ang mga viewers or readers. While ang kaning the second one, which is the non-imaginative literature, so which is the complete opposite of the imaginative literature. So while ang imaginative literature is connotative and this one is denotative, which means this literature is words is naka-refer siya sa meaning in dictionary. So those are naka-refer siya sa mga dictionary. So non-fictional literature or literature of knowledge are also known as those are naka-base siya sa mga intelligences, no? So it includes biographies and essays which presents actual facts, events, experiences, and ideas. So it is more on information about a particular person or an event. Unlike ang ganiha, ang imaginative literature, those are namugna lang siya because of the human imaginations or interest. So we have here the two categories of literature according to Clayden. So Clayden, which is in 2004, which pages in 7 to 8, so states that literature can be differentiated based on the kind of meanings that exist in a literary and exist in a text. So we have here the first one is the literary text. So consists of textual meaning and referential meaning. While ang non-literary text only consists of referral meaning. So the textual meaning is the meaning that is produced by the relationship of the text itself. While ang referential naman, referential meaning, it is introduced by the relationship between the internal text and the external text. So, ang kaning literary text is duha yang ibasyan in terms of the structure and pagka-structure sa mga sentences or the paragraph, as well as the hidden meaning of a literary text. While ang non-literary text is naka-base lang yun siya what is the message or outside unsa may behind meaning of that text. While ang kaning literary text, naa siya aning duha ka characteristics of what a literature should be. So, kuan siya, referential and textual meaning. While ang non-literary text is ang only kuan na siya about referral meaning. So we have here, literature differ from ordinary spoken or written language. So literature uses special words, structures, and characteristics. Primarily, the language of the literature differs from ordinary language in three ways. So, as we can observe, no, ang those ordinary languages that we use in our daily living, like how we communicate with other people, with our family, it is lahi ra siya or different ra siya from those language nga ginagamit sa literature. It is because literature has its own structure no, of sentences, and it has its own principles or mga regulations or that need to be followed. So the first one is nakalainsan as language is concentrated and meaningful. Of course, sa literature, no, since it's about nag-express siya sa different human interests and human imaginations, no, so it is concentrated and meaningful. So the next one is its purpose is not simply to explain, argue, or make a point, but rather to give a sense of pleasure in the discovery of new experiences. So literature, no, is dili lang siya about to inform or to persuade the readers or the viewers, but also it's about to give a leisure time, to give amusement or enjoyment for the readers. When we when we watch or read those literature. So next is it demands intense concentration from the readers. It indicates that language literature has originality, quality, creativity, pleasure. Of course, there are different authors that uses a lot of techniques, no? And there are literatures that are hard to interpret because it has a hidden meaning. Nga mga laglum kay siya kuan. A story can be written in a simple manner that, but na yung mga author is grabe day iyahang nagi siya gipahiwatig ato meaning na siya gipahiwatig ato nga mas lalong di ay nga meaning, no? Kaya ang mga author is like sila techniques or styles nga ilang ginagamit in writing or making their own or their own composition. So next one, so the second one, which is about the appeal of the popular literature. So it is something that makes the viewers or readers attracted and interested in the literary piece. So appeal, it could be those, what are those characteristics or what are those styles that make the literature appealing or fascinating to the readers or the audiences, no? So it could be an idea of a person and how he perceives the particular literature or literary text. So let's proceed with the third one, which is the social function of popular literature. So the function of literature. So the first one is entertainment function, so known as the pleasure reading. In this function, literature is used to entertain its readers. It is consumed for the sake of one's enjoyment. So, ang function aning literature, no? First one is para for a sort of amusement or enjoyment sa mga readers. So, it would gives you literature is mahimo siyang leisure time for the readers. So, it serves as an entertainment or amusement of the readers. So, the second one, we have the social and political function. So, literature shows how society works around them. It helps the reader to it helps the reader see the social and political constructs around him and shows the state of the people and the world around him. So, ang social, so kaning part, literature also would help us to understand what really happens to our environment. So, it would lead us to an idea that ang sa ka-importante those systems na ginamugna sa government. So, it will also lead us to a promotion or ma-realize na itong ka-important sa ato ang pakikiisa or ato ang cooperation and collaboration with the existing system in the government. So, which shows also na kung sa ka-importante ang patriotism and nationalism within our country. So, it would help us to understand na those system or those regulations na nag-exist within the government. And the third one is we have the ideological function. So, ideological function shapes our way of thinking based on the ideas of the other people. Literature also displays a person's ideology placed in the text consciously and unconsciously. So, through this literature, it would also help us para ma-shape or ma-build ang atong own guiding principles in life. So, diri ma-develop ang atong on how we believe in the things or ma-build, we can create with our own ideology or guiding principle in life. So, the next one is the moral function. So, literature may impart moral values to the readers, to its readers. The morals contained in a literary text, whether good or bad, are absorbed by whoever reads it, thus helps shaping their personality. Of course, literature is so essential in terms of shaping the moral function, the moral of every individual. Because literature, most of the literature, it has a hidden message or meaning at the end of every story in which reader maka-learn siya from a different perspective. So, maka-gain siya of knowledge or para mas mabong iyang understanding to differentiate what is good from bad or the bad from good. So, through it, ma-develop ang iyang characteristics or personality as being a good person. So, ang literature is very important para ma-develop ang moral aspect of a reader. So, the next one is the linguistic function. So, literature preserves the language of every civilization from where it is originated. There are also evidences that a certain civilization has existed by recording the language and preserving it through the wide spans of time. So literature also is very essential para ma-understand or ma-learn sa mga readers about the development of the language all throughout the spans of time. So, through also with this literature is ma-maintain or ma-preserve ang language that can be passed in all throughout the generations through the spans of time. So, through ani maka-learn ta kung di ay na-originated or where does this language or a particular dialect came from. So, unsa pa mga historical backgrounds that involves in this literature. Especially nga ma-relate siya sa linguistic linguistic nga aspect. So the next one is the cultural function. So literature orients us to the traditions, folklore, and the arts of our ethnic group's heritage. So it preserves entire culture and creates an imprint of the people's way of living for others to read, hear, and learn. Also, ang kaning literature, it would help us para mas makabalot mo give honor or to appreciate the different cultures that exist around the world. So, through it, mura po siya nahulog na a sort of awareness sa to about the different cultures that exist where we can differentiate. Unsa di kalainan ay sa mga tribo, nagkalalaing tribo, nagkalalaing tao nga naa sila kaugalingong nila, ilang way of life, their cultural life, and their mga traditions. So through it, mas makasabot ta what is the culture all about. But how does the culture reflect to themselves? Para mas makasabot ta sa atuang pride and identity as an individual. And the next one is the historical function. So ancient texts, illuminated scripts, tablets, and others, or etc., keeps a record of events that happened in the place where they originated. So thus, they serve as a time capsules of letters that are studied by scholars and researchers of today. So diba, as we can see, there are a lot of kaning mga oracle stones, there are a lot of kining mga na carved bitaw nga mga drawings or letters in the stones during the ancient times, di ba? So those are the nag-represent siya those mga languages or symbols na ginagamit sa mga ancient people during those time. So through literature, we can understand the historical backgrounds of the different civilizations that happened in the past. So through this through this literature, we can understand that makasabot ta unsa ginahitabo during those history or in the past time, which lead up to the development of what is the world today. So dako jud kay siyang itabang ng history to us para ma-understand nato ang current situation. So the next one is the educational function. So literature teaches us for many things about the human experience. It is used to portray the facets of life that we see and those that we would never dream of seeing. So literature, therefore, is a conduct for the chance to experience and feel things where we can learn things about life. So, educational function, no? So, literature would serve as a source of enlightenment. So, literature must, mahimo siya na tong, a sort of, would lead us to an ultimate awareness or consciousness of the different things that surround us. Para mas makasabot sa life, those makasabot sa what is happening around us. So, it would lead us to an ultimate realization of the things, no? Iana. Especially na ma-relate siya sa human experience or human interest. So that's how beneficial literature to us as an individual. And we have here the importance of literature. So the first one is it entertains you and provides useful occupation in your free time. So it makes you a wider and more experienced person by forcing you to judge, sympathize with, or criticize the characters you read about from those mga stories or epics nga imuhang ma-read, no? It will help you para ma-analyze ang mga characters within that literature. So literature improves your command of language. Also, by reading those mga literature, no, the different literary works, it would expose you to the different languages or mga specific words na dili familiar sa imo. So, may tabuan na, mas ma-expose ka and magamit to nimo in the real life. Mas mo din ay meaning nga word. Na nag-exist din siya nga word. So, through literature, no, mas ma-improve ang imuhang vocabulary, your understanding of the language and different words pa nga imuhang ma-encounter in life, where mas magamit pa nimo in your mga future composition nimo or sa man imo masulat mga essays nimo in real life as a student. We have also here another importance of literature. It teaches you about life, the cultures, and experience in other parts of the world. So, sama sa as what I have said a while ago, no? So, literature would introduce you to the different cultures or scenarios in the different parts of the world. So, literature, no, it encompasses everything, no? It is everything. We have also here, it gives you information about the parts of the world which you may never be able to visit in your lifetimes, no? Although you can visit to a particular place, no? You can research their background, historical background, or their literature. So through that, sama na po ka kanang nakasabot their way of living. Kung sa ilahang pamaagi, their culture, their customs, and traditions. Although dili ka maka-visit sa particular place, but through reading those everything na ma-relate within that particular place is mas makasabot ka. You will have an understanding of a particular place about their literature. And the next one, it helps you to compare your own experiences with the experiences of other people. And it gives you information which may be useful in other subjects, for example, in geography, science, history, social science, social studies, and so on. So through those experiences, through your learnings that you have gained from literature, you can have it para ma-compare nimo sa imuhang own experiences, no? Or ma-relate nimo sa imuhang mga future endeavors nimo as a student. So we have here the importance of literary criticism. So, as a tool in literary studies, critic plays on the important role in doing studies or analysis about literary work. So, ang kaning literary criticism, no, it is about on how to judge or to criticize a particular literary work or kaning literature. So, as a tool, so kaning critic plays. So ang kaning the way we critique those different literature, no, nahimog siyang important role in doing studies or analysis about a literary work. So applying criticism make our focus on a certain aspect or elements of any literary work sharper than reading as usual. So through this pag-apply aning literary criticism, no, dili lang tayo nun nga makabasa ta, but also makatatag siya permis sa to ang mind, because dili lang nato basta-basta lang gibasa ang particular literature or literary work, but we also ato siyang dig deeper in terms of its meaning. So the reader can focus on an aspect as his interest toward the literary work. So through literary criticism, mas madipen imong understanding of a particular thing, which is mas makasabot ka sa iyang topic, ang iyang message nga gina-infer in a particular story. You have also here the universal characteristics of literature. So kaning characteristics of literature, so it should dapat siya timelessness. So meaning it considers all time. Hindi lang siya nag-focus about what is today. Nag-involve do siya what is happening those ancient times, in the modern times, until the current situation. It is also eternity, meaning it has no ending, no? Still siya nag-process, nag-involve, nag-grow, and nag-develop. And we have the third one is universality. So of course, literature is for all of the people. In order for the people na mas makasabot siya, di lang sa kagalingong literature in their society, their own country, but also to the other parts of the world. And we have the permanence. So literature is a permanent expression in words of some thought or feelings or idea about life and the world. So it is a permanent expression ng meaning dili na siya mausap, because it is printed or written na siya or na-published na siya publicly. So, literary criticism and its purpose. So, literary criticism refers to analysis and judgments of works of literature. So, it tries to interpret specific works of literature. And also, it helps to identify and understand different ways of examining and interpreting them. So, literary criticism, no? It's about judging or analyzing a particular literary work. Ilang gina-examine, gina-analyze, and interpret what does the story or a particular text trying to convey. We have also here, study of literary criticism contributes to maintenance of high standards of literature. So through that, through studying, no, through criticizing those different literaries nga nag-exist, no, so ma-develop mas ma-develop yung idea what are those high standards of literature nga ma-contribute nimo in ma-contribute in terms of kanang composition. So it is the study, evaluation, and interpretation of literature. So kaning literature is not just kaning literary criticism is not just about reading the literature, but also analyzing them, interpreting them. So modern literary criticism is often influenced by literary theory, which is the philosophical discussion of literature's goals and methods. So we have here the functions of literary criticism. So the modern understanding of criticism is regarded as having two different functions, which helps to achieve the main purposes of criticism. So criticism is the process of analysis and description and interpretation of literary works for the purpose of increasing understanding and raising appreciation. So literary criticism is so essential, as it would help the readers to not just to read or learn how to read the literary text, but also to understand them or analyze them deeply. So through that also, ang mga readers is ma-appreciate niya ang what is the message of a particular literature. how do you do literary criticism? So the first one is method to applying advanced critical techniques. So read the work of literary critically, evaluate as you read, brainstorm which aspect to write about, formulate a thesis statement, create an outline, select quotes and patterns that support your thesis, and find other criticism to support your thesis. So when you do a literary criticism, so after you read them, you have to analyze them or to criticize them deeply. So, kinahanglan mo ino iyang strengths and weaknesses and evaluate them. So, here are the types of literary criticism. So, such analysis may be based from a variety of critical approaches or movements. So, when you are criticizing a literary note, so pwede kang bisan asa nga aspekto or bisan unsa imuhang basyan any of this. So we have the archetypal criticism, the cultural criticism, the feminist criticism, psychoanalytic criticism, and the Marxist criticism. So these are the variety approaches when you are going to criticize a literary. So we have here the other one, the new criticism, which is also known as the formalist and structuralism, the new historicism, post-structuralism, and the reader response criticism. So the first one is kaning archetypal criticism. So it is a critical theory that interprets a text by focusing on symbols, images, and character types in literary works that is used to discuss the plot, character, or situation. So, kanina yung pag in literature or story, na gina-analyze na ang different characters, those plot in the story, mga situation, mga theme, this is itawag na archetypal criticism. And it recognizes conscious and unconscious symbols that relates to emotions, values, feelings of feelings to specific images. So archetypal is nag-focus siya or gina-convey niya what are those specific images in a particular literature or story. So the next one is the cultural criticism. Focuses on the elements of culture and how they affect one's perceptions, understanding of text. So we have here the four assumptions. No? Ethnicity, religious belief, social class, etc. are the social components in formulating plausible interpretation of text. So, when you are criticizing a literature, no, nga naka-base ani cultural criticism. So, an example is you are Christian ka and you read the culture about kining mga Muslim culture, no. So, you have read that or nakabalo ka nga okay na sa ilaha nga mga sawa o kining more than one. So, they can have with a maximum of 4. So, if mo criticize ka ng literary work using this criticism, kind of criticism, any cultural criticism, which is i-base mo sa imong own understanding of culture, your own perception. So, para nimo is diligyog ka uyon aning culture, tradition sa mga Muslims, so they can have more than one wives. Because naka-base siya sa imong kagalingang culture, sa imong social beliefs o you mean nakabase ka sa imong kaugalingan nga understanding because of the culture that you already have. Nga pwede kang muyon or dili because you judge or criticize a particular literature based on a cultural criticism or based on your own culture that you have. So next, well, the emphasis is on diversity of approach and subject matter. Cultural criticism is not the only means of understanding ourselves, our part. But however, kaning cultural criticism is dapat nabuo gyud diri ang promotion in understanding the cultural diversity. That dapat you should not criticize particular culture or ang literature na naka-base lang sa imong kaugalingon, but also the different aspects, no? It's not just about understanding your the self, but also our part. And the third one, an examination or exploration of the relationship between dominant cultures and the dominated is essential. So, it is also important kayo no, we examine about the relationship, about the dominant culture and the dominated one is essential. Like for example, here in the Philippines, no, we are aware that we are often influenced, no, or colonized by the Western culture and Western beliefs. So, mas nahimo na sa to in the present time, no, na mas din dominant na ang other culture, other beliefs, no, from the outside of our country than our own, that our own identity and pride within our country. So it is important, no, to differentiate the relationship between these two, the dominant cultures and the dominated culture. We have to understand that. And the next one is when looking at the text through the perspective of marginalized peoples, new understandings emerge. So of course, marginalized people, no, it refers to those people na who have those kaning naka-experience of like racial discrimination. It is because they are mga discriminated by the dominant people. So we have here kaning mga badya or other mga tribo, no, like they are kanang away sila sa mga na revolutionized kaning people. So we have to understand that, no, in the perspective ani, now we have to understand those marginalized people. So through understanding these marginalized people, such as mga nagkanalaing tribes, so new understanding or knowledge will emerge. So the next one, so through the feminist criticism. So from the word feminist or feminine, which is talks here about women. So it is a product of a feminist movement in 1960s and 1970s. So before, no, especially during sa tong those mga earliest centuries, no, women are being described as weak and fragile. That they are intended only sa mga household chores. They don't have the right for education. They don't have the right ma-recognize as powerful in the society. And mooning nabuo ang idea nga feminism, which is ginapaglaban nila, which is na-recognize naman universally that women are also powerful, that they are also inclined, that they are also embedded with the human rights, a freedom of expression, a freedom also nga pwede silang mo-equal sa men. So it is the representation of women on literature as an expression of the social norms about women and their social rules as a means of socialization. So another way of criticizing literary is through this approach or feminist criticism. So you criticize a particular literary work using the idea of feminism, meaning the ideals, those are the characteristics or mga principles or ideals of as a woman. And next is psychoanalytic criticism. So it is psychoanalytic criticism is based on the theory of Sigmund Freud, which is the psychoanalytic theory, which is based on Freud's ID, ego, and superego. So, what pasabot those ego is nag-refer siya what are those mga impulses or mga certain desires and needs of a person or a child. While ang ego is naka-base siya sa, ang ego is naka-base siya sa reality. Ang superego is naka-base siya sa mga mga inunana nga idea, it's about the different levels or the human aspects, no? In mga human aspects inunana. It is a type of kaning psychoanalytic criticism. It is a type of criticism that uses theories of psychology to analyze literature. So mostly ani mga sa psychology, psychology is based on understanding sa background of a person, like iyahang nadakan from his development, growth and development, ikan sa iyahang birth up to the present, up to his kaning adultery. Up to from the birth until sa nidako na ang person. So naka-base siya sa psychology, which is understanding background or the status of a person. So it uses two different approaches: psychoanalysis of the author and the psychoanalysis of the character. So through kaning pag-analyze or criticize a literary, so we have here psychoanalysis of the author, meaning it is understanding the background of the author, and also psychoanalysis of the character, which is understanding the character in the story. So we have here is the Marxist criticism. So applies political science and economics to the study of literature. So kaning Marxist criticism naka-base siya sa it's about political science na no, na naka-involve na ang economics. So it connotes higher class to control arts, literatures, and ideologies. So na-involve na diri ang understanding sa social stratification, sa system of the politics, and about the political world. So you are criticizing a particular literary work by means of this mga political beliefs ni Ana. So Marxism as compared to feminist and new historicism. So like feminist critics, it investigates how literature can work as a force for social change or as a reaffirmation of existing conditions. So like new historicism, it examines how history influences literature. The difference is that Marxism focused on the lower classes. So, diba in the political beliefs, diba in a social, diba, there are social certifications like natoy ka ng mga ginatawag ng mga pobre and mga datoy na nasa mga lower classes, middle classes, and the high class. So, ang kaning Marxism, so naka-focus siya no, on the lower classes. So they in terms of feminism na idea or feminist critics, no, both sila nakapareha sila sa about longing for social change or equality in the society. Like ang kaning sa iyang murag similarity sa new historicism, no, like they are about naka-focus siya sa influences, mga historical influences to the present time, mga inunana. But however, nagkalahi sila because ang kaning Marxism is nag-focus lang siya on the lower classes ng ana, o sa mga low class people or mga mga working people in the society. So how to do Marxist reading? So look for examples of oppression, bad working conditions, class struggles, and other related issues. So Marxist reading, no, it's about digging deeper to a problem or to the issue within the society. Since nag-focus man siya sa mga working class men, the lower classes in the society. So it's about longing for social change. It's about longing for equality, for the betterment sa mga people that in a society as kaning mga makaluluoy, the fortunate ones. So another thing is search for the cover, meaning underneath the over, which is about class struggles, historical stages, and economic conditions. So kaning Marxist reading, no, it's about it's about siya sa addressing what are the real struggles of the working class people, no? So ang Marxist reading is about siya those longing for social change, for the social change and equality para sa mga working class people. We have also here the third one is to relate the context of a work to social class status of the author, and relate the literary work to the social conditions of its time period. Explain an entire genre in terms of its social period. Show how literature is shaped by political, economic, labor, and class conditions. So this is how a Marxist criticism should be done. So, basta iyang main idea is nakafocus siya about social change for the working class men. And we have here the new criticism, or also known as the formalism, structuralism. So, was a formalist movement in literary theory that dominated in American literary criticism in the middle decades of the 20th century. So, functioned as self-contained, self-referential, and is aesthetic object. So, it is believed that everyone, so through this new criticism, no, it is the new on criticizing, it is another way of criticizing on literary work, which is about siya sa self-contained na siya. It's a self-referential kind of criticism. And we have here the formalism, refers to critical approaches that analyze, interpret, or evaluate the inherent features of a text, like grammar, syntax, literary devices, and among others. So, kaning formalism, no, nag-refer na good siya, no, sa not on the different ideologies, not on the different principles or theories, but to the existing or within the text in terms of its grammar usage, iyang syntax, iyang structure of a literary. No? So, nakafocus siya sa mga words and its nakafocus siya on kaning the different features of a text. It also reduces the importance of a text's historical, biographical, and cultural context. Of course, because nakafocus siya on the text, not on their hidden meanings or their historical backgrounds, but to the text itself. So we have here the new historicism, which is first developed in Stephen Greenbelt's in 1980. So based on the idea that literature should be studied and interpreted within the wide context, examining both how the author's time, in turn recognizing that current cultural context color the critic's conclusion. So this is the new way of new historicism, no? It is another way of criticizing a literary text in which di lang siya about nakafocus on what happened in the past, but also dapat relate siya on the present time ng anak na idea. And we have here the post-structuralism critic or criticism. Must be able to utilize a variety of perspectives to create a multifaceted interpretation of a text, even if these interpretations conflict with one another. So this is depending on the opinion, no? Or depending on the stand, the points of a particular critic or author. So it is particularly important to analyze how the meanings of a text shift in relation to certain variables, usually the identity of the reader. So this is how the reader or how the critics interprets a particular literature or a text. And we have here the reader response criticism or the RR. So yung acronym is RR or the reader response criticism. Critic believes that a reader's interaction with the text give its meaning. So it focuses on the reader or audience and the experience of a literary work rather than the author or the context and form of work. So, a reader response criticism is simple manner lang siya to interpret a particular literature. Dili siya naka-base on unsa gid gustong ipasabot sa author, but it based on the understanding, the observation, or it could be the own interpretation of the reader in response to the literary na iyahang gi-criticize. So it was stated here, it focuses on the reader or audience and not the experience of a literary work rather than the author or the context and the form of work. So we have here the rule of the reader response criticism. So the rule of the reader is pivotal in the understanding of literary. So they can be used as a psychoanalytical, structural, feminist, etc. approach to formulate their own criticism. So when you are criticizing a literary, so depende na ato bisan unsa nga kind of approaches ang imuhang gamitan na ato or any of those criticism, kaning reader response. So kaning reader response, it depends upon the critics or the audience kung asa ato iyahang gamiton nga criticism or approaches of criticizing a literary work. So, kibali, it's a freedom for the reader as a critic, in a particular literature. So, any of those nag-exist na approaches. Readers are active in the reading process. They cannot read literature passively but must react and therefore bring meaning to the text. So, they're not just kanang read a particular literature, kanang mga readers in this kind of approach, but also they need to react of it. They need to express their own interpretation. They need to address on what they have understand in a particular literature. And now, let's proceed to the exercises. So, since our first exercise is to read the summary of the Frankenstein, to read advanced story of the summary of Frankenstein, which is written by Mary Shelley through accessing this link. Since you have read in advance the story, and now let's proceed with the second activity. So, activity 5.2. We have the direction, read the summary of the novel entitled Frankenstein and determine its nature, appeal, and the social function. So we have here a format. You may use this format or you can create your own format. Ang importante is masulat na ninyo inyong own idea or perception of this story of Frankenstein in terms of its young nature, appeal, and the social function. And you have the 15 minutes to answer or to write this one or to do this activity. So the time starts now. time's up. And now, let's have the last activity for today's lesson. So, activity 5.3, Venn diagram. So, we have here the direction. Use the Venn diagram to differentiate popular from contemporary literature genre. So, we have here the format. So you're going to use this format to differentiate popular literature from contemporary literature. So you're going to write all of their differences. So you have 10 minutes to answer or to do this activity. Write your answers in another one whole sheet of paper. So time starts now. Okay, time's up. Thank you so much for your participation. Time's up. Thank you so much for your participation. Okay, time's up. Thank you so much for your participation. Okay, time's up. Okay, that would be all for today, class. Thank you so much and God bless us all.